Good day. My name, as you well know, is Egil. Welcome. Before we get going, don't forget to press on there to leave us your comments and hopefully subscribe. We're always glad to hear from you. As I say, I am Egil. I'm a warrior. I am a trader, mercenary, runecaster and storyteller. But today I want to talk to you about Sutton Hoo. Sutton Hoo is a very interesting site. I was very lucky, I dug there. I did a season there under Martin Carver. If you're listening, Martin, hello. The story starts back in the 30s. The site of Sutton Hoo was owned by Colonel and Mrs. Pretty, and Mrs. Pretty noticed there were mounds all over the property, and she got her gardener and he excavated and found, hello, there's more to this, and he called in, I think it was the Cambridge archaeological people, and they excavated a mound. Now in this mound they found rows of ship rivets in a boat shape. The boat was about 90 foot long, and there were various treasures which you could see at the British Museum, but they were finely made. The trouble with Sutton Hoo, like a lot of Saxon sites, is that the soil is acidic. Now I went there in the 80s. Well, in the 70s British Museum had put a wooden box down, and to quote Professor Carver, it had the consistency of cheese. When we went to look at it, you could put your finger through it. So how do we know there were bodies? Well, imagine muddy water and a brown person in it, in an outline, and what we had when we excavated this was a 3D image of a person. All we had left that was organic was a little bit of tooth material. But if you look closely, you could see that they had hair down to here. Now that's very interesting in the sense that long hair was a sense of power. There were approximately 200 graves we found on there, and they were all cut to specific shapes. Some were multiple graves, some were graves of people who were hanged. You could see the neck was broken. Some people were face down and tied, and there were multiple deaths. There was a man sitting with his hands tied behind his back, another one in the same position with his legs over his shoulders. But the most interesting one of this was what we called the Ploughman, and we excavated it, and there was a broken plough, and he looked like he was leaping like that. The reason for that is the Saxons very often reoccupied Neolithic sites, and there's no exception. And what they did, they ploughed the land to ritually purify it. The plough was broken and the man ploughing was sacrificed and buried. But if you could imagine yourself back in the 600s going down the River Deben, and about you could see these massive mounds, and as far as we know, these were the mounds of a royal family called the Wolfingas, King Wolfo being the original. The Royal Mound, as it's been known as, we think was King Redwald, who is an East Anglian king, or a powerful warlord. King is, we used to get told off for saying kings. But what is interesting, if you go there and look at the mound, they've got the outline of the ship, and there's a circle, and that's where Henry VIII sent out a treasure hunter, for want of a better word, and he dug down, nothing there boss, went back. 12 inches away from that was the gold belt buckle. Had they found that, the whole place would have been levelled and taken away. But also in about 1850s, a mound was opened and looted by the Royal Navy. We found pieces of gold from rivets from the belt buckle. There were bits of broken glass. Ship nails were sent off and sold for 10 and 6. It also suffered another indignity in the Second World War, where it was used as a training ground. A lot of people don't understand this. It's very dangerous at times digging on there, because you're liable, as one poor man did, stick his trowel through a 2.5 inch mortar shell. We were finding 303 bullets, and you have to be so very careful. So anyway, that's by the by. But one of the interesting things that we found was his purse. So we think it was an ivory lid, but inside were 37 coins. Now each of these coins came from the Franks, and each one was different. And we think, this is only postulation on the academics, that they were areas paying tribute to him. We don't know, but that seems the most likely thing. There are a couple of ingots as well. The treasures themselves bear a striking resemblance to the Staffordshire hoard. They are golden garnets, and they are beautifully made. The cloisonne, which means the shape. If you can imagine, there's gold leaf underneath. You have like a cage made of gold, and then millefiori glass and garnets. Millefiori is, if you imagine, a series of rods heated up to the consistency of chewing gum, put in that cell, and then broken off and polished, and you've got millefiori, and it's fantastically wealthy. The more interesting thing is, all of these things were in everyday use. The shield with the ravens, a particular favourite of mine, has got signs of repair on it. The helmet, if you go to the British Museum and look at the reconstruction made by our good friend Ivor Lawton, you could see the fantastic detail, and it's very clever. If you look at it in one way, it's Christian. If you look at it another way, it's wholly pagan. And when we understand that Redwald was a pagan, he was converted to Christianity, but had an altar to Thor, and his wife was Christian. How do we know he was Christian? Well, in amongst all the other bits we found were 2 spoons marked Solus and Paulus, and that was his baptismal name, Paul. There were 10 Byzantine dishes. There was all sorts of stuff there. It is well worth a visit if you go to the British Museum. Excuse me. There is a whole gallery of this kind of stuff. So, what is the importance of Sutton Hoo? Well, it's one of the most, it is basically the richest Saxon hoard we found. Possibly the Staffordshire hoard might be worth more, I don't know. It's just a matter of numbers. But what we do know is, if we look at Beowulf, we can see traces of the burial rites, where they cremate the body. Well, was there a body there or not? That was one of the things we had to ask. Well, there are now chemical tests done to prove that there was a body there. I'm not surprised, but there is evidence of a ring of spears, and perhaps the riders rode round it like they did in Beowulf and Lord of the Rings. It's a useful document, Beowulf. We can look at it and compare. We found musical instruments, one of which has been reproduced, and there's a chap who can play it, and quite melodic. But it's a very rich site and well worth a visit. If you've got the chance, go and see it. There are other mounds which haven't been excavated. They've excavated some, but they left others, and let's hope they reveal even more information. You see, people only think, oh, it's a treasure ship. Well, yes, there is gold and silver, but there is also, if you take it in context, there are domestic things, and the things that are missing, like rich silks, wools, and we think that was adorned as well in the burial chamber there. But if we take it even further down to the Neolithic, we've got hearths. We had a chap from Algeria, Abdul, if you're watching, hi there. Abdul was an amazing guy. That's some wild times we did. And they excavated and they found a hearth. And Abdul said that is just the same as what my mother had. We found flints flint workings, and I learned the difference between a manufactured flint and a natural break flint by picking them up and looking at them. And I went through them with Abdul, and he told me, yes, that's right, that's wrong. And there was a couple of arrowheads found as well. So it's not just one site. And then if you go to the edge of the site, you could see a series of horizons. And you could do that actually if you're in Derbyshire. Go to St Peter's Church, stand on the hill, and you'll see various horizons through different ages. It's quite fun to do that. But anyway, as I say, that's basically a very, very rough surmise of Sutton Hoo. If you're interested, Professor Carver's book, The Age of Sutton Hoo, goes into far greater detail. So, till we meet again, far here. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe.